almost the whole philosophy of this Scottish trip and seeing the kids, experiencing nature and the seasons and rain and mud and different temperatures, that's the good stuff. That's the stuff that we want for children. It is good for us. This research shows that being in nature for even 20 minutes at a time has tremendous benefits on our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our nervous systems. Hi, this is Rusty Keeler, and you're listening to the Play Nature Podcast, where we talk about play, nature, playing in nature, and the nature of play. I'm glad you're here. Let's have a listen. Hello. Welcome back to the Play Nature Podcast. All right. I'm glad you're joining me today. And that sound, besides my voice, isn't static. We're not having AV issues. That's the creek. I'm back next to 6 Mile Creek here. And we've had rains. We're in springtime, which in Ithaca, New York is the back and forth between beautiful, warm, yay, and then suddenly 20 degrees Fahrenheit and cold and freezing, and back and forth. But that's okay. That's what spring here is all about. That transition between seasons. But it's interesting, before the full blast of flowers and green and, things just growing, there's this pause, and then it's subtle changes. What are the changes? What are the subtle or not subtle changes of spring where you are? Or maybe you're going into autumn if you're on the south side of our planet. Yeah, here it's interesting because it's birds. It's like a sound change. Before the flowers come up, the birds are back from their migratory journeys down south. And so that's a great. It's you're just surrounded by the sounds of the birds of all different kinds. You start to, I keep track of all these little changes. The first time we, of course, see a robin, but then we have ospreys that fish around the creeks and lakes around here. So to see the first osprey come back is fun. And then the sounds of the creek, because it's been raining. So we tune in to all these things, and that puts us in our place, right? And we also are in transition in different times of year. So as we think about putting children in natural spaces, or bringing nature to children, or bringing children to nature, it's because we want them to connect with the earth, and connect with the seasons, and connect with the cycles of life. And we want to connect with that too. So it's nice to be able to do that. Are you doing that? Do you have a sit spot, a place where you can go and just bathe in the forest, or in a park, or a beach, or your backyard, and just kind of notice? This episode is going to be about my Scotland trip. Yay! Visiting outdoor nature preschools in the Highlands of Scotland. But one of the great things was that the whole trip ended on a symposium, and there was this amazing researcher that talked about the benefits of children in nature, and all of us in nature. And we evolved in nature, right? We are in tune with it. And so I want to get her on this podcast in the future here. But just think about that idea, and that's almost the whole philosophy of this Scottish trip and seeing the kids, experiencing nature and the seasons and rain and mud and different temperatures. And this is what you and I believe, that that's the good stuff. That's the stuff that we want for children. We want for all of us. Like, it is good for us. This research shows that being in nature for even like 30 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time, has tremendous benefits on our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our nervous systems. So maybe even wherever you are listening to this podcast, maybe your nervous system can tune in to the 6 Mile Creek that I'm sitting next to as I tune into it too. Yeah. So it's been a few weeks since I was in Scotland, and now Ithaca, New York is caught up to where Scotland was in springtime. And this study tour, you may have heard me talking about it, or maybe you were on my newsletter list, and you get the newsletters that was kind of getting all excited about it. And so this was about a year-long planning in the making to help lead a study tour of Scottish outdoor preschools. And the masterminds behind it were the team at Stramash. And Cameron Sprague, a buddy of mine, lives in Scotland, he approached me about a year ago and was like, "Hey, you wanna help lead a bus tour of our preschools?" And I'm like, "Yes." Of course, just like that, that's up my alley. It's like it's up your alley. So, yeah. So I'm gonna tell you all some of the ins and outs of it, and I'll take you a little on a audio visual, maybe not a visual, but you have to supply the visual, an audio tour of the trip. But the idea was that they have these preschools. Stramash is the company. You can look them up. I'll put it in the show notes. Stramash.org. And it's some Scottish word. I never quite understand it. It's kind of like a big hoopla, or maybe it's a stramash. It's like adventure and something exciting and not quite chaos. Maybe it has to do with rugby. I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of a fun name. And they have a series of these outdoor nursery schools where the children are outdoors all day long because they believe in the stuff that we believe in, that children should be connected to the earth and nature and seasons and each other and mud, and they know how good it is, and they know that, the academic stuff will come. It will come in the future. But that kind of connecting with each other and connecting with nature and asking questions and having fun and, having adventures that don't go right, or that you have to, be resilient, or you have to, you problem solve, or you fail, or you get up. That those are the things that are the foundation for being human. They're the foundation for living. And they're the foundation for academics when they come in the future. So that's what these preschools are all about, is just, it's like all those forest school things that we like. Children being out in it, exploring and experiencing. So the trip was like a 5-day bus tour through the Highlands. We started in Glasgow, and there were about 30 participants. And we had a big old modern bus that took us around with a great bus driver. And so we had people from 7 countries checking it all out. From from Los Angeles to Lithuania. That was our slogan. And we had early childhood educators. We had college professors. We had infant toddler professionals. We had teacher trainers. We had evolutionary biologists. We had play advocates, and everything in between. And it was a great bunch, right? This is our crew, our community. And you would have been a great addition to this group, because it really is. It feels like it's like, oh, these are our people. people that care. We're not alone in this. We're surrounded by people that care about this. So that alone made the trip great, right? Everybody that was there, from Iceland to Lithuania to Arizona to Ithaca, New York, were neat people that we had great conversations, and we were learning together and being wowed together. Stramash themselves totally outdid themselves. The planning was incredible. The thing flowed. The tour flowed like magic. The restaurants picked out for lunches and dinners, and all the hotels, everything's taken care of. We had walks. We had stops in the mountains, stops by the sea. Everything was just timed so well. I was just amazed by everything. So it really flowed well. And it flowed so well that they're planning the next 2 years of it. So there's a wait list already. You wanna get on that wait list? Yeah. We'll have that in the show notes. So yeah, why don't you join me next year? And the next 2 years we're gonna have special guests. We'll announce later. We'll announce soon. But other special guests that you'd love to spend a week with, looking at nature preschools. But anyway, so we took off on the bus. Started in Glasgow, had, some warm-up greetings, a champagne, what do they call that? Getting to know each other, mixers, some fun stuff just to kind of, start to meet everybody. And then the next morning we were off, onto the bus. And we headed northwest to Oban, which is has a harbor and leads to the sea, and where you can get to the islands off of Scotland. And so that was the first site of this. So I just want to I'll take you through some of these. But so right away, you're like, oh, mud. This was the mud season, right? And it was raining. And this was the thing too that Stramash had planned so well. Everybody participating, we got a goodie bag, gift bag of stuff, including totally solid, well-made rain pants. So everybody had rain pants. They said that we should all bring raincoats and lots of layers. So they have these great rain pants that all the adult educators, people out there with kids every day, these are the rain pants that they wear. And then winter hats, So we were well equipped, no bad weather, just bad clothing. So we had good clothing. And so we donned our clothing, and we split into 2 different groups. And this first site had a hillside, mountainous, muddy tree climbing area where kids are in the woods and all these different levels and constructions. And they're by the sea, so they were big fishing nets that they had strung between trees, and just so great. Just, what you imagine, and at wild, free-ranging kids. It's all fenced in, but you're not really even aware of the fences. So you're climbing up all this stuff, and then they do have little buildings. So if the weather is so bad, you can be inside. And in the deep, dark, cold winter, really bad weather, Cameron will say, hey, we're not trying to, nobody really has to suffer here. If you want to spend all day in the cabin with a wood stove, and it's like a classroom in there, you can eat lunch in there, you could, there's activities and stuff. You can spend the whole day in there. That's okay. You can make those choices. It's not to force kids to be out all day. But most kids are out all day. They had buildings that were classrooms. They had buildings where you could take little naps. Pretty rustic buildings. And then they had, the bathrooms. They do composting toilets. That's what I saw, I think, on all the sites. Composting toilets and good hand wash stations. And that's how they took care of it. So that was interesting to see. This is up and running. This is functioning. This is how they do it. So this first site had the mountains and the hills, these hills that you're climbing and hillsides going down and real rugged. I mean, this is it's woodsy, and you can tell it is kid eroded, right? Kids all over this thing. And then they had another site that was like the open meadow that wasn't really developed too much, or they're just in the beginnings of developing it, because first they just had the hill, and they used to have, this is an interesting story, they used to have a tree, a climbing tree that they would come down off the mountain, off the hill, and they'd walk through a meadow, had to be like a sheep meadow, and they would walk through it and get to the climbing tree. And they did that for years, because it was just like a perfect tree in the way the branches were and everything. So they would climb in there, great for preschoolers. But then one year, the tree fell over. Oh, their climbing tree fell over. And of course, that was a shock at first. But then they realized, hey, the way this thing fell over, it's actually a great climbing tree in its own right. Like, it's totally interesting the way the branches are and the way that you can climb it and scale it and traverse it, and they hang ropes, swings in it, and all sorts of stuff. So now they have it tipped over, and the landowner let them take over that meadow. So they have the two sites, the mountainous site and then the meadow site. And the meadow site has, places to eat, and there's big sand pits and great mud kitchens and real rugged. And they have willow, living willow. I love living willow tunnels and living willow arches and living willow huts, or even the great living willow cathedrals. Yeah, well, they got it going over there. It's willow. Maybe willow was born prehistorically in Scotland, because it is everywhere, and it's everywhere in all these preschools. So you could see where they planted it years and years ago, and it's grown in, and now they're trimming it, and they're using the willow whips to make new fences and new arches and new huts, and I was just thrilled. I took tons of pictures of all these great willow structures and experiments. So that's super fun. So I love seeing, the terrain and the teachers and how they weave into it and what they've built and what they're experimenting with. But then it's also beautiful to see the children just feeling so free. They're all in their mud suits, and you could just see like this was their place. Like it was a place of freedom. This was their place. And each place we went to, I just got this sense like there was for them, a feeling of belonging, a sense of belonging. Like this was their place, and they could do what they wanted. And the adults are on the outside helping things out, reminding them, okay, lunch. This is the last group doing lunch. Come on over, kind of thing. Helping with hand wash stations and whatnot. But that they owned it. The kids owned it. And so that's great to see. And what is that? It could be the place, but it really could be the philosophy of the adults. Like, are you saying yes? Is this a philosophy of yes? Can the kids feel it? And so I think these places, they just feel like, yeah, this is made for us, and we can explore and experiment, and there's loose materials, and nothing's too precious. So we can feel free. The next stop on our tour was Fort William. Now, I'm not a big Harry Potter fanatic or anything, but I guess Fort William's one of the places where they filmed some of the Harry Potter movies. And we did get to go see, all these scenes and all these landscapes were just incredible, real breathtaking places. And one of them is where there's like a big a train goes on this viaduct, arched viaduct through this valley. And so I guess that's a famous scene. And so we saw it, and it was beautiful, nestled in these mountains with a lake. A lock. They call it lakes, locks over there. So anyway, Fort William, so that's like, I guess, I guess I think of Fort William almost as like the Durango, Colorado of Scotland. Like, it's a kind of a cool, funky town, and it is like the gateway to, like, for hikers and mountain bikers and, people going up to explore. in the mountains and things. There were still snow caps on those things. So there is this spirit of like outdoors, right? The outdoors is a place to be as an adult and as a kid. And, you know, even Scotland in general, I felt like had that philosophy, and with their early childhood education, like, and play, like supporting play. This was impressive at a national level, like the national government and the regional governments are really standing up and standing behind play. You know, they take the child's right to play seriously. You know, the UN Convention of the Child, rights of the child, and the right to play. And so they even use that in their laws and what they are supporting in schools and early childhood education. And they stand up for early childhood education. The government pays for early childhood education. They fund early childhood education. They fund providers. And so families will get basically almost free childcare for qualifying 2-year-olds and then almost nearly universal 3 to 5-year-olds. And you get essentially 30 hours a week free childcare. You can look up the details, but there's not like qualifications. It's like kind of across the board. And then this is how centers are funded. It takes a burden off the parents, and there's private ones that don't get government funding, but for the most part, providers are getting funding for the government. And so that's pretty amazing. And then pretty amazing to see a group like Stramash taking it and running with it in the direction of free play and nature play outdoors. So Fort William was the site that Cameron Sprague was the director of. Now he's like co-director of the whole organization, but he used to be director of this one site, Fort William. And when he started, it was a field, and that was it. Like 2 trees. I don't know, 2 acres, 3 acres, and 2 trees. But he had the spirit, just like us, of wanting to connect kids to nature and have them connected to trees and plants and sand and mud and water and seasons, all the good stuff. So he just started planting and designing and building and pallets. He's like a pallet master. And so they've built all sorts of things. I think it's been about 10 years now. The great Juliet Robertson, who inspired the country and the world with nature play and connecting kids to nature, who passed away this year, was a mentor of his, and she called this place Cameron's Field of Dreams. And so I've been seeing pictures of these places for this place for years and years, so I felt like it was a pilgrimage to get to go see it in person. And it did not, what would you say, it was awesome, basically. Yeah. So just to see like all this planting going on, and they plant like not just shrubs, but like trees as shrub lines. So there's all these meandering like trees planted very close together in fun shapes to create borders and rooms of different areas. Of course, there's willow huts galore and willow tunnels and willow arches here and there, mud kitchens. Again, like these rustic cabins with wood stoves inside, keeping things warm if you want to go in and warm up. There's a tower, like another pallet-made, scrap lumber-made tower. That is risky. And this is a whole other conversation. Maybe we'll get Cameron on here again to really take us through their philosophy of risk. But it's different. I think it's different than what we think of in North America, because they, like from the government level and the standards level, there's benefits of risk. And there's even these guidelines. I don't know the ISO and these numbers. I'm not good at remembering all those numbers, but I will get those to you too sometime in the show notes. Basically, they're guidelines for like, here's how you do risk, here's why you should do risk, here's why you should not take risk out. Ooh, thunder. Hear that? Okay. It's not raining, but I hear thunder. Speaking of risk. But that's okay. I'm under some trees. So anyway, this idea of risk, and they talked about graduated risk. So that every time they build something out of these pallets, there's like, oh, it's a little challenge to get up on top of this pallet cube or this pallet A-frame. Here's the easy way. Oh, here's the little challenging way. And then here's the really challenging way that you might not want to try unless you're really good. And so they've built some contraptions that, I tend to think when I go on these tours, will I see anything that surprises me? Anything that I haven't seen before? So, yes, I saw some things I hadn't seen before. And one was this tower that they really finished kind of after we left, but we saw them working on it. It was a tower over a bridge that had been working for a few years just as a bridge, and they made this tower, and they want to have this graduated risk so that if you're really ready, at some point, some kids are really ready to take the next level of risk. And so here it was. You could really climb up this thing, and no fall zone. You could fall on things. I mean, basically it's dangerous. But if their philosophy, and this seems like the Scottish philosophy is, if you're not ready for it, don't do it. But if you're ready for it, well, here you go. Let's see you try. And we'll have support. There'll be people around you. But it's just like, a lot of our listeners here, our community has the philosophy of, like, say, kids climbing trees, like, or even on equipment. Like, we're not going to put you up in it because you got to be able to get in it, right? To show that you're, like, capable. And then you can climb around. And so that's sort of the idea with this. Like, they're going to make it hard enough that if you want to get to the top of that, you got to be really good. You got to be really ready. And maybe you're not 100% confident, but you got to really, like, it takes agility to get to it. And then their idea is that once you're up there, then you're going to be able to get yourself down and stuff. Ooh, some more thunder. And so that idea is kind of like a tree. First when you see it as like a rickety, cool, funky tower over a wooden bridge, you think, my gosh, what? They're not following playground safety guidelines? But then turns out they are. They're following the playground benefit risk standards. And then it's like, oh, well, that is like climbing a tree. Like, really, if a child feels good enough to get into it, they can climb it. You feel good enough to get up top, and there's things to look out for, and you can coach from down below, but it does get a little nerve-wracking for the adult. Whoa, they're really up there high. And for the kid, whoa, I'm really up here high. And then you have to be a good problem solver, like, okay, what are the right branches? What are the right things to grip? What are the ones that'll break on me? Same with the rickety pallet tower. What are the right things to grip a hold of? All right, so that was Fort William, the pilgrimage. We went to, let's see, the next one was Torgrain. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing these things right. Torgrain. How was that for a Scottish accent? Let's see. So this was interesting because it was like a planned community. Picture yourself in a Scottish planned community that was all like tidy, like it looked like an old village, the architecture styles of the housing and everything, but it was all brand new. Very tidy, sort of like Truman Show-ish, except Scottish version, and there's a little store and a little doctor's office and a little cafe, and there's a community garden, and there is a funky, wild nature preschool right there as part of it. And it has its building. It was they inhabited this pre-built building that was, designed in the style of the tidy little village. But from there, they have, again, like a hillside, like a rugged hillside. And it's the kind of place that, if you're thinking, oh, should we have a preschool there? You might think, we couldn't have a preschool playground there. It's just a forested hill, steep hill. But then if you like refocus your brain, you think, oh, actually, that is a great place to have a preschool playground. It's a forested hill. And so, of course, like again, it's like kid erosion, all these different levels, plateaus. A few little built things here and there up at the top of the hill. Once you get to the top, now it's pouring right now, but I got my rain suit. No bad weather, just bad clothing, right? Am I right? Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So they had this little observatory hut at the top where you could look out over the fence line and beyond, and they had like bird feeders right outside there. So you could look. And then what I loved was seeing all these trees that kids had gotten into, almost ground level, like because it's a slope, and then trees would branch out and multiple branches right from the trunk, and it was just like worn away. Like I love that when you see like sculpture in public places, and you just see like it's worn where the people touch it over and over. Like you'll see like bronze sculptures with like the nose because people rub the nose. So these trees were like gently rubbed for years by the kids. So yeah, I love seeing that. Okay, it's really pouring now. Let's see. They also had, so then it was kind of fun to have this rugged hillside playscape, and then you walk through the tiny little village, then you get to the woods. And they had they'd take half the group out certain days of the week and just be in the woods. And this was kind of neat, their technique for being in the woods. And this wasn't what they owned, but it was like a community park of woods. Maybe you could do something like this. All the kids had bright, fluorescent pennies, pullovers, so you could see them in the woods. And then they had set up, like in the 4 directions, another bright fluorescent pullover that was just kind of tucked on a tree, hung on a tree branch. And so they went over it with the kids, like, okay, here's your perimeter. Here's where we're going to be today. They can mix it up. And then they were playing hide and seek when we were there. We got to be part of that. That was fun. The kids know these woods. They're up over rocks and on logs, and, this is their territory. And then they had a portable porta potty. So it was like this little pop-up tent, poof, pops up, and inside they have now I've seen this before, called a luggable loo. Basically a bucket, and there's sawdust, and there's, what else did they put in there? Something to make it smell nice. So anyway, it was, so they have this little porta thing, so you use it, and then they clean it up at the end, and it's in a bag. There's like a garbage bag liner in the 5-gallon bucket. There's a little seat on it so you can sit and do your business. And they say everybody likes doing their business in that thing. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? That's fun. Okay, moving on. Higher up on the sea, Elgin. Now this is a windy space. So this one was wide open. And I actually didn't get to spend much time in the play area because I got to lead 2 tours up through the woods, these magical woods, and I did like a meditative, silent, sensory walk to kind of tune to the woods, tune to the land, and then up top we gathered in a circle, we talked about it, and then we did fairy hut building. Yeah. So, but this magical place, more thunder and lightning. Ooh. But it got me thinking, like when we're so busy with things and technology is beaming at us and there's so much information coming at us, it is really nice to like stop all that and almost like detune from that and tune to the earth. Whew. Take some deep breaths and be in nature. And you see the natural world, and then you remember that you are part of the natural world. And I've been thinking a lot about technology and the engulfment of technology, that we were being engulfed in our cars and our devices, and how much more technology is coming at us, and AI, and it's like everything wants more and more and more. And it made me really appreciate the idea of like, how about we can pull away, we can take time to pull away and be engulfed in nature. That is a healthy engulfment. So we love that for us, and we love that for our kids. From there, we went to one of the next days. We stayed in a hotel that was Charlie Chaplin's favorite place to bring his. It was like this old mansion, but to bring his family when they wanted to get away from it all. But anyway, that was on the way home to Glasgow. We stopped at a non-Stramash place called Faso Play. And okay, folks, dear listener, here's one of those ones that was something I had never seen before. They don't call it this, but it was basically a swamp playscape. Yes. Yeah. Now, okay, we had gotten there after a big rain. It wasn't raining when we were there, but I guess they had a rain all morning. So it was really, really wet. But it's almost always really, really wet. This was like behind a farm, behind the landowner's house, and they had like a treed area, and it was swampy. And they had boardwalks that went everywhere, tree houses, and bridges. Bridges over this little creek, bridges over that little creek, bridge over this wet area. And it had the smell of a swamp. And there are the kids in their mud suits, their rain suits, their snow suits. Totally fine, in puddles, out of puddles, over bridges. And then going into the yurt, the heated, wood-fired yurt to warm up. But it was one of those moments I was like, what am I seeing? Swamp playscape. And so it puts things in perspective, right? Like, do we worry about having a puddle after a rain? Do we worry about having puddles on blacktop? Do we worry about standing water? What do we worry about? Here's a school that follows their guidelines, is regulated by the government, they have strict health and safety and licensing and all that kind of protocols. And they have boardwalks over wet, soggy, swampy land, and that's where they're playing, and it's awesome. And the kids are thriving, and there's amazing things going on, and they have a pet pheasant. I'm all about the free-range chickens with kids in playscapes, but then free-range pheasants. Again, never saw that before. And then I got to, I don't want to make this too long here, but probably, I love the Stramash stuff, of course, and I want to keep going back. And it was great to make the pilgrimages, especially to see Cameron's work at Fort William. Loved all the directors. I loved, seeing them interact. I love seeing all the kids, and also like they have the co-director, this fella Josh with Cameron. He comes at it from the accounting, so he's like an accountant to help make everything work and run, and yet he is like the most playful accountant you've ever known, and all the kids instantly gravitated to him every place we stopped, and just saw that, like, and just like all of us, just like you're using your super strength to support play, to support children, right? Whatever it is, whatever your super skills are, you're putting it to good use. And so it was great to see Josh, the accountant, putting his super skills, his superpowers to use to support play. So that was Stramash. But then back in Glasgow, when we got back one of the last days, another pilgrimage for me, I got to see an adventure playground, like a real deal adventure playground, the Baltic Street Adventure Playground, right smack in a neighborhood in Glasgow. And this was like, for me, it's like this I don't even know how to describe this. It's like a dream come true, seeing like a real adventure playground where it is a it's that sense of place for kids. It's a place they can go. It's a place where they belong. It's a place that they build. It's a place of risk. It's a place of mess. It is a place that is of the children, by the children, for the children, with incredible dedicated play workers around the outside making the whole thing work. Like the real deal. And so we all, the bus pulled up and we all get out, and there's kids after school, a group of rough and tumble guys and girls, like, eating their hamburgers, right? They get meals, and that's part of it too. So it's like, boom, right in the neighborhood, after school you go here, and it is free play, free whatever. You can build, you can hang out, you can goof around, there's animals to tend. And one of the big parts is they have a commercial kitchen. So they are feeding the kids. Like, this is a place that you belong. You're a kid, you belong here. And there's hills, and there's tires, and there's weird kid-built sculpture, and there's tree houses, and there's risk, and there's mess, and there's, all that incredible great stuff that I love so much. But it was really this idea of a place where kids can go and be outdoors and be with each other and be with the play workers who support them and love them and are there for them. And to me, I feel like, childhood has changed so much. This will be another podcast because, maybe I'm coming to grips with it. I don't like to admit that it has happened, but it has changed so much. And with children indoors, or children scheduled, or children not having safe streets, and being either overprotected, overscheduled, academics too much, depression, anxiety, blah, all this stuff. I feel like places like the Baltic Street Adventure Playground in Glasgow, it's like the answer to our problems. Play workers are the answer to our problems. Having adults like you who believe in play, who stand for play, who stand up for play, professionals who create the time, the space, and the materials for play. Whether it's dedicated adventure playgrounds to get kids outside. Here is a safe place, parents. They can come here. They can come here and gather after school. They'll get fed. There's adults that are responsible, and they can be there. Like, get kids together. Get kids out. Or having the play worker model where they are play ranging, where they are in parks, where they're in neighborhoods. They're not a dedicated space. They have a van, Spielmobile in Germany, the Playmobil, where they're out, play workers are out there, and parents can feel comfortable, like, okay, we'll let our kids out because there are these adults that we trust, that are trained, that are professionals. And those same professionals, we can do the same sort of play work training at schools. In Scotland and in the UK, there's OPAL, OPAL, look that up, OPAL Play. Outdoor Play and Learning, it stands for. And so at recess, there's play workers and play work principles. And all these principles of the nature preschools, the outdoor preschools, and the adventure playground, it is adults like you, like me, who believe that this is what children need. This is what children deserve. All children. Right? All children. Need to touch this. And whether you can have a full-blown adventure playground, you can have a full-blown outdoor preschool, maybe you're lucky that you can go in that direction. But we can all start to step in that direction. Whether you have the full-blown thing, you have your own mountain and wooded hill with trees, maybe not. But you can start to take small steps of saying, hey, we want to be outside more. Oh, is it raining? Let's go outside in the rain. If you have an all man-made area, rubber surfacing and play equipment, let's go out there in the rain. There's nature. You don't have any nature in your yard, you say? Well, when it rains, you do. So go out there in the rain. Dig up some asphalt and have just an area that forms a puddle or that makes some mud. Or have a corner that starts to plant things. plant a whole bunch of trees. Plant one tree, plant an orchard, or just plant sunflowers, or just plant beans, or I don't know what. Just bring in hay bales, bring in logs, bring in stumps. Start to make an outdoor preschool corner. Start to have play work philosophy at your school, where you're like, oh, I'm going to support the play and intervene less and to let play happen. Or I'm going to have things that have graduated risk. So there are easy things with your play equipment, but there's some things that are more difficult. And maybe if you want to add even extra, the highest graduated risk, you let kids climb on the outside of the play equipment. When they're ready. Because at some point they'll be ready. So there you have it. There was a Scottish trip. It was fun. It was eye-opening. I got to do it with my older son, 14-year-old son, JJ, Julian James. And then we got to go see a 900-year-old cathedral and go explore a castle after the tour was up and have that kind of fun sightseeing, time together in the old country. But really, quite a trip. And so much to be inspired by. And I'm excited that they're going to keep planning these. And maybe you can join us on one of these trips in the future. But I'll keep showing pictures. I'll get some pictures going at some point that you can look at. Check it out. I'll have some more Scottish people on the podcast. And yeah, it's very encouraging to see people leading the way. And hey, we don't have to invent it. We don't have to reinvent it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the outdoor preschool. We don't have to reinvent the adventure playground. There's models for us. There's people that are leading the way. And then we can just use it for our circumstances. We mold it. We switch it around. We make it work for our licensing, for our rules, for our school district, for our parks, for our own backyards. Yeah. So let's do it. Oh, wait. We are doing it. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for doing what you do. And I'll keep doing what I do. And let's keep our community going. Reach out to me if you have questions or comments. And I'd love to hear from you. Until next time. See ya. All right. Thanks for listening. Do you have a comment or a question? Email me at playnaturepodcast@gmail.com. You know I like talking about this stuff. And maybe we could use your question on a future podcast episode. As always, I have some free goodies for you in the show notes, including my outdoor loose parts guide. Fun stuff in there. And so I wish you the best in your outdoor play adventures. And when it comes to adding nature to your yard, or loose parts, or saying yes to risky play, my favorite motto is dream big, start small, and never stop. Oh yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Let's do it. All right. Have fun out there.